Welcome back to the Deep Dive, presented by Growth Axon. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Alex.
And our mission here, as always, is to dive deep into the source material you provide and really just synthesize the insights, the ideas, and the conversations that drive real growth and innovation.
And today, we're really focused on cutting through all that noise. The goal is to connect some pretty complex dots between technology and culture, and hopefully deliver the kind of knowledge that helps you understand what's happening on the absolute bleeding edge of the market.
Yeah, and today's topic is, well, it's a fascinating one. It's at this intersection of artificial intelligence, deep cultural history, and maybe a little surprisingly, the world of craft beer.
Which is such a perfect fit for what we talk about here.
It really is. It's the definition of a growth axon project. We're not just looking at some small incremental change.
Right.
We're looking at a fundamental shift in how products are even thought up and made. So our deep dive today is all about this really remarkable collaboration that came out of Japan. It's called the AI X Craft Beer Project.
And this is where COEDO Brewery, a major craft beer maker, basically handed over the creative input, the soul of the recipe, to an AI.
To an AI engine developed by NEC, yeah.
And the goal wasn't just, to make a new flavor based on what's popular right now. I mean, that's what you do a focus group for.
Right.
This was much bigger. The mission was to capture the entire cultural essence of 4 different Japanese generations.
And then translate that whole abstract history into something you can actually drink, something that could maybe even bridge some of those generational divides.
It's a huge idea.
The sources really get into the details of the partnership. You have COEDO Brewery on one side. They're known for their very traditional hands-on craft brewing.
And on the other side, NE, a tech powerhouse with this cutting-edge AI.
But the foundation of it all, what makes it so incredible, is just the sheer scope of the data. NEC's AI analyzed images and text from Shogakukan magazines published over the last 4 decades.
40 years. Just think about that for a second. That's not just market research. That is a massive cultural footprint. They didn't look at what people said they liked last week in some survey.
Right.
They looked at what society was actually consuming visually and, linguistically. What they were reading, what they were seeing, what they valued across their entire adult lives.
From their 20s all the way up to today. And the real genius of the tech was that it could convert these really abstract feelings, the vibe of a decade, the language people use during an economic boom.
And turn them into hard numbers.
Exactly. Unique, quantifiable indexes representing specific colors, fragrances, and flavors for each generation, from people in their 20s up to their 50s.
And here's the hook. For anyone who's focused on growth, this is the key. The master brewers at COEDO Brewery, they made the final beers based only on what the AI told them.
They completely committed to it.
They committed to the data's vision. They turned this cultural hypothesis from an AI into a physical reality. It's like the ultimate data-driven product development, but it's informed by history, not just current fads.
This whole thing is just a perfect illustration of how you can take these abstract trends, like the optimism of the 80s bubble economy or the feeling of struggle during the lost decade.
And put it in a bottle.
Put it in a bottle. It's a shortcut to really understanding deep consumer profiles, deep market segmentation, all packaged up in a 4-pack that tells this incredibly complex story about a society. It's like they engineered nostalgia.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So starting in section 1, let's really nail down this collaboration. I mean, between COEDO Brewery and NEC. We know they wanted to sell beer, obviously. But what was the deeper purpose here? What made this huge data mining effort worth it?
Well, the sources are really clear on this. The stated goal for the whole project was actually sociological. It was to, and I'm quoting here, assist in communication across generations from their 20s to 50s.
Okay, so that really elevates it, doesn't it? It's not just about a new recipe.
Not at all. It was about creating a physical object, the beer itself, that could act as a bridge.
A conversation starter.
A huge one. Imagine a 50-year-old sharing their bubble economy beer with a 20-year-old digital native and having a real sensory conversation about the cultural differences that are literally embodied in the flavor.
That idea of a physical communication tool is, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard for different generations to explain their own cultural landscapes.
It is.
A shared product that represents those differences gives you this immediate common ground to talk about it. The flavor itself becomes the topic of conversation.
Exactly. It completely bypasses all the, abstract academic talk and just grounds the difference in a shared experience. And, there's a specific note in the source material about the product definition that's really important here. It's about the tax categories.
Oh, yeah.
So when we say craft beer in this project, it actually covers two things. Traditional beer, but also low malt beer, which in Japan is called haposhu.
Haposhu.
Yeah, and it's a totally separate category under their liquor tax law.
Why is that distinction important? I mean, beyond just the legal side of it.
It's crucial because it ties directly into the economic and cultural side of things for each generation. Haposhu, the low malt beer, it has a lower tax on it.
So it's cheaper.
Generally, yeah. It's more affordable, more accessible than full malt beer. And if you look at the lineup later, you'll see that the beers for the 20s, 30s, and 50s are all haposhu.
And the 40s?
The 40s is a traditional beer.
Wow. So that suggests a direct link to their economic reality.
I think so. It's accessibility and maybe casualness for the younger generations and maybe high volume enjoyment for the bubble generation.
Contrasted with this more traditional quality-focused choice for the survival generation in their 40s.
That's the idea.
That's a fantastic point. So the tax status itself is another piece of data reflecting their world.
It's not an accident.
So let's get back to that foundation, the data. 40 years of Shogakukan magazines. I mean, that's an immense cultural archive. We're talking late Showa period, all of Heisei, and into early Reiwa.
And within that time frame, you have these massive societal shifts. You've got the crazy financial high of the 80s, then the economic collapse of the 90s.
The rise of the internet.
The whole digital revolution, social media, I mean, everything changed.
And by analyzing both the pictures and the text, NEC was essentially pulling out the common threads that defined each of those different eras.
It's more than just a collection of facts, though. It's like they were extracting the zeitgeist.
The spirit of the time.
Exactly. The spirit or the mood of a particular period seen through what was popular in the media.
And that's the key transformation, right? Taking these abstract things like the color palettes from the 80s or the kinds of words used in 90s articles and converting them into hard numbers.
Actionable indexes for colors, for fragrances, for flavors. This process, turning cultural vibe into sensory specs, that's the real innovation here for product development.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, traditional market research is all surveys and focus groups.
Well,
and those methods are always skewed. People say what they think they're supposed to like, or you're only getting a tiny snapshot of what they want right now.
this project just completely sidestepped all of that. It used what people actually spent their time and money on over their whole lives as this deep proxy for their generational identity.
So you're not targeting their flavor of the month impulse. You're targeting something much deeper, something ingrained in them.
Precisely.
And the proof is in the pudding, or in the beer, I guess. As you said, the master brewers at COEDO, who have all this subjective expertise, they didn't tweak the recipe.
No, they didn't.
They executed based solely on what the AI gave them. The data wrote the recipe, and the artisan brought it to life.
It's a total commitment to the machine learning output. It's a profound shift in how those creative and manufacturing roles can interact.
They trusted the AI's translation of culture enough to risk their reputation on how it tasted.
It's a model that shows how AI can actually extend craftsmanship instead of replacing it. It provides this historically informed template that a human artisan then has to physically create.
That level of trust means we have to look closer at how they did it. We can't just say AI turned history into beer. So Section 2 is about how the AI actually performed this translation, and it's this brilliant three-step process.
It's so elegant because it's structured to mirror how you'd normally enjoy a craft beer.
Okay.
First, you see the color. Second, you smell the aroma. And third, you appreciate the taste.
Right.
But the AI mapped the life path of each generation from their 20s up to today, and it applied that changing cultural identity to each of those three steps.
So it's not just a snapshot of a generation, it's their sensory history.
Exactly.
Okay, to really get this, let's walk through the example for one specific product.
Do it.
The AI Age Craft Beer 40s Yellow. This is for people who are currently in their 40s, so we need to see how their past, their 20s and 30s inform the final beer.
Right. So for this 40-year-old profile, the AI deliberately split their preferences across 3 different decades of their life. It mapped a specific sense to a specific decade of cultural influence.
That's where the sophistication really comes in. Okay, so let's start with step 1, the color. This was based on the influence of their 20s, their foundational aesthetic period.
And the source material for this was critical. It was fashion images taken from magazines that the 40-year-olds were reading when they were in their 20s.
So it locks in their formative style. The look and feel of that time when they were first figuring out who they were as adults.
Which often sets your visual preference for life.
And the tech they used here was generative adversarial networks, or GANs. Can you break it down for us?
Sure. A GAN is basically two neural networks, two AIs that are competing with each other. You have a generator and a discriminator.
Okay.
The generator tries to create fake data, in this case, fake fashion images that look real, and the discriminator's job is to spot the fakes.
So through that competition,
the generator gets incredibly good at creating images that perfectly capture the style and the essence of the original photos it was trained on.
so the AI didn't just analyze the old magazine photos.
No, the GAN, after learning the aesthetics of that era, generated a huge volume of new clothing images itself.
Whoa, okay, I need to pause on that. That is a huge conceptual leap. They're not just sampling what was there. They're creating engineered trend data.
That's a great way to put it.
So if a magazine had a blurry photo or some weird one-off color, the GAN kind of smooths all that out and generates the aesthetic truth of that time.
Precisely. It's creating a statistical average of the cultural visual preference without all the noise from individual issues.
And the final trending color, the one chosen from all those generated images, is the pure distilled essence of their 20-something era.
And that's what the brewers were told to match for the liquid color of the beer.
Amazing. Okay, let's move to the next chapter of their life. Step 2, the aroma. This represented the influence of their 30s.
So here, the AI completely switched gears. The source material was no longer images. It was the texts extracted from magazines they read in their 30s.
So we go from visual aesthetics and GANs to, what, linguistic sentiment?
Exactly. And the technology here is called word embedding.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't deep in natural language processing, how does word embedding turn text into a physical smell?
Well, word embedding is a technique where you convert words into numerical vectors. You're basically plotting words in this high-dimensional space. And the key idea is that words that are used in similar contexts get mapped closer together in that space. So, for example, words like success, ambition, striving would all be clustered together.
And words like relaxation or casual would be somewhere else entirely.
Correct. So the AI reads all this text from their 30s era magazines, and it maps out the dominant semantic relationships. It quantifies the underlying sentiment.
And that quantified sentiment, say, if it reflects struggle from texts about career challenges or refinement from articles about travel, that gets converted into aroma indexes.
That's it. Concrete, quantifiable aroma indexes. Fruity, caramel, phenol, malty, and alcohol.
That is just a wild translation. The feeling of the texts, the mood of society embedded in the words, is converted into specific chemical compounds that create a scent.
And the brewers don't have to read the articles. They just get the index. They get their mandate for the scent based on these non-traditional, linguistically derived numbers.
And they use their hops and their yeast and their malt choices to express those indexes.
They do.
Okay, finally, step 3, the taste. This step represents the influence of their current 40s.
For their current taste profile, the AI went back to visuals. It looked at fashion images from current magazines that are targeted at people in their 40s.
But there's a key difference here, right?
A critical one. The source highlights that this AI was trained by pre-existing fashion preference data that was provided by the fashion magazine editors at Shogakukan.
So you have the current visual style, but it's filtered through a model that was trained on the subjective, curated opinions of tastemakers. The editor's definition of what's in style right now.
Exactly. And that training lets the AI associate specific visual cues, like the texture of a fabric or the minimalism of a design with underlying aesthetic preferences.
And then it converted that current fashion preference into the final taste indexes. Sweet, bitter, sour, and dry.
And again, the brewers express the taste accordingly. The implication is just staggering. The aesthetic complexity or simplicity that this generation values in their clothing right now
Directly correlates to how much bitterness or dryness they want in a drink.
It's incredible. If they prefer highly tailored, complex fashion, maybe they want high bitterness. If they prefer soft, minimalist clothes, maybe more sweetness or sourness.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
The sheer sophistication of this. You're using 3 different life stages.
20s for the color foundation, 30s for the aromatic depth, 40s for the final taste.
And 3 completely different, highly advanced AI approaches for each one. GNs, word embedding, preference data. all to build one single cohesive sensory experience.
It's a multi-layered identity distilled into a pint of beer.
The audacity of the process itself is the real innovation here. It shows that you can achieve this insane level of product personalization if you're willing to look at cultural data over time and use AI to pull it all together.
Okay, now that we understand the method, the why, and the how, we can really appreciate the final lineup of beers.
Yeah.
The series was available back in July 2020 on the COEDO Brewery website, and the sources say they're now sold out. So that suggests this very targeted, data-driven approach really worked.
People were into it.
Yeah. So let's look at the 4 profiles, starting with the youngest.
We'll start with the 20s pink. This is one of the low malt beers, the Haposhu. And this generation is described as the digital natives. They grew up surrounded by social media.
And their sensitivity is described as a little sweet and sour.
I like that.
It's an herbal ale. The profile is immediate, accessible. It's got citrus aromas from American hops, some acidity. But the pale pink color is very specific. It comes from hibiscus.
Okay, hibiscus.
And crucially, it has restrained bitterness and a low alcohol content. So it's designed for casual, easy enjoyment.
The choice of hibiscus and that pink color feels so deliberate. It's visually appealing. It's a bit novel. It's perfect for a generation that's fluent in social media aesthetics. It's a very shareable, photogenic beer.
And the low alcohol fits right in with that. It's low commitment, high accessibility. This is beer designed for right now and for being seen.
And the fact that it's a low malt Haposhu reinforces that whole profile, doesn't it? It's the accessible, less traditional choice for a generation that prioritizes new experiences over, rigid tradition.
That sweetness and sourness really reflects that balancing act. They're digitally sophisticated. That's the sour, the complexity, but they're also still developing their palates. That's the sweet.
Okay, moving on to the 30s, BLUE, also a low malt beer. This is the millennial generation, born in that transition from the high-growth Showa era to the slower Heisei era.
They hold a sense of values that's different from the older generations. It's a classic transitional, harmonizing identity.
And the beer is a fruit ale,
Yeah.
designed specifically for harmony.
Right. The source notes, sweet-smelling coconut and tropical hop aromas with a slightly bluish hue. It's all about balancing pleasant acidity from lemon peel with hop bitterness.
The goal is equilibrium, harmony.
It reflects the complex, sometimes contradictory values this generation holds. They're bridging the traditional past with the digital future.
Yeah, they're the generation that remembers the world before the internet, but are now completely fluent in it. So their beer has to reconcile these opposing forces: acidity versus bitterness, sweet fruit versus tropical hops.
That blue coconut aroma is a really interesting note, too. It suggests this exotic complexity layered on top of something more familiar.
So they're not looking for the pure novelty of the 20s or the maximalism of the 50s. They're looking for integration, for balance.
A sophisticated palate that requires that balance, yeah.
Okay, now we hit the really complex one, the 40s yellow. And this is the only one that's a traditional full malt beer, not a low malt beverage.
And this is the employment ice age generation. They hit the workforce during Japan's economic stagnation, the lost decade. Their beer is explicitly described as reflecting the fruit of the survival through the struggling times.
That narrative really dictates the texture of the product.
It does, and the brewing choice here is fascinating. It's a Crystal Weissen.
Okay, wait a minute. If they survived struggling times, wouldn't you expect something really robust and heavy, like a survivalist beer? Why, Crystal Weissen, that sounds so delicate.
That's a brilliant question. And it gets to the heart of the AI's sophisticated translation. A traditional Weissen is an unfiltered wheat beer. It's cloudy, it's yeast-heavy, very full-bodied.
Right.
But this is a Crystal Weissen, and that means the yeast, which causes that cloudiness and heavy body, is intentionally eliminated.
So the result is a light-bodied beer with a really clean taste.
Externally, it's clean and light. It's a reflection of maybe a rejection of ostentation and efficiency and clarity that was honed by hardship.
They prioritize clarity and cleanliness in the taste, maybe pushing back against the excesses of the bubble generation that came before them.
I think so. But their internal profile, the aroma, is incredibly complex. It's described as a unity of complex aromas. Ester and phenol from the yeast, reminiscent of banana.
So that's the genius contradiction. You have this complex internal profile, the aroma of deep, nuanced survival that acquired wisdom. But the external presentation is light and clean.
It's the refined survivor.
And the fact that it's traditional beer, not Haposhu, suggests that even though they want that cleanliness, they value real quality. They prioritize that quality over saving a bit on tax.
It's hard-earned discernment.
The 40s beer is the most profound metaphor in the whole lineup. It's complexity that has been meticulously filtered.
Refinement honed by hardship. That's the taste of a generation that survived the lost decade.
Wow. Okay, finally, the 50s RD. This one is a low malt beer, and it represents the bubble generation, the ones who experienced the late 80s economic boom. Energy, excitement, glamour.
This is an original ale, and all the brewing details reflect that high-energy, confident profile. It balances a blend of specialty malts with a high alcohol content, the highest of all four.
So it gives it what? Just the right amount of body and a refreshing mouthfeel with a mellow aftertaste.
Everything about it is designed to communicate luxury and presence. It has a glossy color and a glamorous fragrance.
The use of specialty malts and high alcohol directly mirrors the economic maximalism of the bubble era. They lived through a time of intense wealth and consumption, and their drink reflects that.
Exactly. They want richness, body, and expensive experience. And even though it's technically a low malt Haposhu, they get that body and presence from the specialty malts and the higher alcohol.
What's fascinating here is how directly the ingredients and the characteristics map onto these generational stories.
It's a one-to-one correlation.
For the 50s, high alcohol and specialty malts for luxury and body. For the 20s, low alcohol, low bitterness, and novelty hibiscus for casual accessibility.
The whole progression is like a liquid timeline of Japanese cultural priorities and economic history, from the boom of the 80s right into the digital age.
And that subtle choice of using low malt versus traditional beer reveals this deep understanding of the economic context for each generation.
It really validates the whole hypothesis. The AI successfully translated deep, abstract cultural data into highly specific, differentiated product metrics that a master brewer could physically reproduce.
This level of detail brings us to section 4, which is the big one. The implications for innovation and growth. This is central to what we do at Growth Axon. The so what for anyone listening is just massive. This project gives you a powerful template for personalization that goes so far beyond your typical demographic bucket.
Yeah, traditional personalization is pretty rudimentary. It just says male, 45, high income, likes IPAs.
Right.
This project says something exponentially more valuable. It says people aged 40-50, whose cultural aesthetic was set by late 90s fashion, whose linguistic sentiment during their professional rise emphasized striving, and who now value clean, refined, visual simplicity.
Prefer a clean-tasting traditional crystal Weizen with complex aromatic depth.
It's a completely different level of contextual personalization.
You're not just profiling the consumer, you're profiling their entire cultural history to predict their deep-seated preferences today.
And look at how NEC did it. They bridged these data silos that are almost always kept separate.
Managed by totally different departments or academic fields.
We saw them fuse fashion and visual anthropology with the JANs.
Pure linguistic data and sentiment analysis with word embedding.
And sensory science and biochemical engineering for the final taste and aroma indexes.
Merging those domains, the visual, the linguistic, and the physical, is true interdisciplinary innovation. It proves that these seemingly separate cultural datasets, when you run them through the right AI, can give you actionable insights for product development, even in a field as tactile as brewing.
It gives you a strategic model for growth, showing how to leverage all this untapped historical data.
And beyond that, the project actually fulfilled its core mission. The product itself becomes a conversation engine. It assists in communication across generations.
Right. If you have a 20-something trying the 50s RED, they are physically tasting the high alcohol and the body that reflects the energy of the bubble economy generation.
They're experiencing the history and the flavor. It makes the abstract tangible. You can't really argue with the taste of glamour or the aroma of complexity. The beer is a much more potent conversation starter than just reading a Wikipedia page about 1980s Japan.
It's experiential history.
And the future applications are. They're almost limitless. If AI can do this for something as complex as craft beer, which requires so much chemical precision, imagine where else this could go.
I'm thinking about hospitality or real estate.
Oh, yeah.
Interior design that isn't based on what's trendy right now, but on the aesthetic principles of a target demographic's formative years. A hotel room that just feels culturally right because the color palette matches your 20s.
Or even highly personalized entertainment. Music playlists or streaming recommendations based on the linguistic sentiment of the media you consumed as a teenager.
It's applying deep cultural data to predict emotional and aesthetic resonance in all these different consumer growth sectors.
This raises an important question, though, a challenge to the objectivity of the whole system. We saw in Step 3, for the current taste, that the AI was trained by fashion preference data provided by fashion magazine editors. So we're relying on JANs and word embedding for historical truth, but then we introduce this current element that's based on the subjective, curated opinion of editors.
That's the frontier of this kind of data fusion, and it's essential to understand that risk. You are essentially codifying the subjective opinions of contemporary tastemakers into an objective algorithm.
An algorithm that generates tangible product characteristics like dry or bitter.
Right. So if the editors are wrong about what 40-year-olds currently prefer,
Hmm.
if the trend they pick is just fleeting or only appeals to a small group, then the taste index is going to be fundamentally flawed.
Even if the AI does a perfect job translating the visuals into flavor.
It creates a human bias bottleneck in what is otherwise a purely data-driven system.
So it highlights the continued non-negotiable need for critical human expertise in curating the data.
Exactly. Even when the output is driven by AI and is scientifically precise, the quality of the training data, which in this case included a subjective, opinion-based element, is what determines the final validity of the product profile.
It's a powerful reminder that growth innovation requires managing that interaction between objective science and qualitative human input.
That's a great way to summarize it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what we've really seen in the AIX Craft Beer series is this incredible marriage of old-world craft artistry and cutting-edge tech.
We saw NEC use JANs to generate an idealized visual truth from the past, word embedding to turn literary sentiment into a physical aroma, and that specialized preference training to define current taste.
This whole project serves as such a compelling model for what we talk about at Growth Axon, that true growth and innovation is driven by bold data synthesis.
It's about taking data from these disparate fields, fashion, linguistics, economics, and merging them into a single, highly personalized product specification.
And the brewers acted as the executors of the AI's complex cultural hypothesis. The result was 4 distinct beers that beautifully bottle 4 decades of Japanese generational history.
And they provided a genuine tool for cross-generational communication.
And here's a final provocative thought for you to mull over. The AI successfully analyzed the cultural past of each generation, their 20s and 30s, to inform their current taste profile. The beer reflects who they were and how that shaped who they are now. But what would a beer taste like if it were brewed solely on a generation's aspirational future?
Ooh.
Not what they read or saw in the past, but the unquantified cultural goals and dreams they hope to achieve.
That is a great concept to chew on.
If we could quantify ambition, what does it taste like? Is the flavor of a future driven by sustainability initiatives? Sweet and casual? Or is it complex and bitter, reflecting how hard that changes?
We'll leave that challenging data puzzle for you to solve.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. This was Charlie and Alex representing Growth Axon, and we're focused on giving you the insights and ideas to drive your own growth and innovation.
And thank you for sharing your sources with us. We really appreciate the complexity.
We encourage you to dive deeper yourself. Let us know in the comments below. Which generational beer would you most want to try and why? The Casual 20s PINK, the Harmonious 30s BLUE, the Clean Survivor 40s Yellow, or the Glamorous 50s RAD? We'll see you next time.